Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another live broadcast with Hanifa Nayela. I am Hanifa Nayela, and I am here every Friday at 5 p.m., between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., just to bring whatever is on my heart, whatever is on my mind to speak about. I hope everyone that joins in today is feeling well. If you're not feeling your best, that you are working towards that um, as you go forward in your night, in your day, into the evening. It is 5 p.m. Eastern. It's 5 p.m. on this side of the United States. But welcome for all. If you are going to be watching this on the replay, I say much blessings to you. And if you are watching it on the replay and you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do that and share the information if it has helped you or you know someone that it would be of help to. So we just got live, so I'm just gonna go over a few house rules. If you are, like I said, if you haven't subscribed, shared, or like, please do so at this time. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at the real Hanifa Nayela on Instagram. And if you are feeling generous, you like what you hear today, and you just want to give a donation, you can cash at me at Goddess Hanifa. And yeah, and if you are tuning in and you want to join the conversation, I definitely will be dropping the link today because this is a conversation that I think we all should be a part of and really something that we should be thinking about as well. Excuse me, guys. I'm just trying to fix this cord because it's under my feet. All right, that's better. Yeah. So yeah, I know some people are gonna be joining us. I'm gonna allow other people to come in. And so I see Enya as usual. Peace, Sister Hanifa, and everyone coming into the chat. Peace to you, Enya. Thank you for your continual support. I appreciate the love that I get from you. Danique says, big up at Hanifa. Blessings to the chat party. I'll catch the full on replay. Thank you for passing through, Danique, as usual. And thank you for your support. So I have to make sure that I have everything that I need with me because I'm probably going to start off with a clip. And it's about 8 minutes long. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to let it play. I watched some of it. So I'm sort of going to be watching it with you. And then we can have a conversation. But it definitely is connected to what I'll be talking about today. And yeah, homeschooling was a tragedy yesterday. Homeschooling was a tragedy yesterday for me. Um, but I bounced back today. I did much better today. We had some hiccups. It was a challenge. I surrendered. I decided to go lie my behind down. And I think it was the best thing to do, where I just walk away and say, okay, everybody take a break. There was some tears shed and so forth. So I literally was like, okay, we just need to step back, because I often have to remind myself when homeschooling, it's really not that serious. It really isn't. Because if there's something that you didn't do, you can always take a break and resume later on. Or you could catch it the next morning. So I'm learning. And it's going okay so far. So thanks for asking. If you have any tips, let a sister know, okay? Because I'm doing it with a gap. So I'm homeschooling the 10-year-old, and then I'm also homeschooling my toddler, technically, right? So there's a gap there, and really finding that balance between the two of them has sort of been a little bit of a challenge. But I'm realizing the toddler, I don't really have to spend a lot of time. Well, I can't, even if I wanted to, because their attention span is like this much. After he's done, he's done. So I get about 15 minutes circle time, and then like maybe 30 minutes doing other things with him. So he's forcing me to be a little bit more creative with him. So it's an adventure. It's a journey and it's an adventure. I am I am enjoying it. And then some days I just feel like tapping out, but it is definitely expanding the way I view education. It's expanding my knowledge around parenting. It's allowing me to actually experiment and explore other things to add to my parenting toolkit. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So thanks for asking. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm proud of my toddler. He's doing very well. So um Inya says, good job. It happens. Yes, we have to walk away at times. Absolutely. Absolutely. The older one can help with the toddler while you take many back. Yeah, you know what I started doing because I realized my toddler does listen to his older brother. I've actually started incorporate like bringing him into our little 15-minute circle time because it's really only 15 minutes. So when my toddler gets something wrong, I'll call on the 10-year-old and you'll see him looking up at his brother, listening. So I'm trying all kind of different things. So thanks for asking. I see my aunt, peace, my aunt, peace, peace, peace. Oh, my aunt, if you could join the conversation today, I would love to have this conversation with you as well. Inya, any of you guys that feel like coming up and having the conversation, please do. What I'm going to start off with is this clip is a TED talk, but it's only 8 minutes long. So it's not that long. Okay. I know our attention span is like that of a toddler oftentimes, but like I said, I didn't watch it in its entirety. So I'll be sort of watching with you guys and then we're gonna segue into the conversation. I'm going to be here as long as I possibly can. Um yeah, so let's get into it. Let me see if I can share my screen and if it's gonna pull that particular 1 minute, guys. Because I'm gonna make it bigger on my screen. There we go. Oh shoot, no. Okay. So hi, just do it. I was gonna call you by your name. I'm so sorry. Hey, just do it. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Let me see if I can go ahead and share my screen, guys. Your girl is getting better at this. Slowly but surely. I really should practice a little bit more. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, it's by this brother whose name is Ashanti. All right, so I hope you guys can hear it. Let me make sure it's turned up on all the way up.
Imagine if you've been walking around the Bay Area any amount of time over the last few days, you've probably seen a lot of people wearing masks. If you're not aware, about 150 miles north of here, there are fires burning wild. The smoke from those fires had brought itself to the Bay Area, and people began to purchase these masks. Different classifications of masks, N95, different colors, blue, purple, different colors of string and cords. Maybe you were wearing a mask. What if you didn't know that it was important to wear a mask? You know, I was at a school on Thursday doing some workshop with some students, and none of them were wearing masks. And Alameda County that day decided they were going to close schools for Friday. And I started thinking, I think I'm a little smart. Why haven't I picked up one of these masks? If Alameda County has decided they're closing all the schools, then maybe I haven't been reading something. Maybe I haven't been paying attention. There was not one student at that school who was wearing a mask that day. I don't know if anybody in their family had told them it's important to wear a mask. The Environmental Protection Agency says that the dangerous particles in the air, which measured by the Air Quality Index, AQI, the dangerous particles, are so small that a human being's natural filters couldn't even protect them. And so the dangerous particles enter the lungs that could possibly cause long-term heart and breathing issues. What if you didn't know that? But I want to talk to you about some different kind of masks. A group of young men that we worked with at a middle school here in East Oakland, who told me that every day, this is before the fire, this is for the time they've been in middle school, that they come to school wearing a mask. Every day, they get up in the morning, they get ready, show up to middle school, and they bring their mask with them. But these masks you can't see. And these masks are not to protect them from some fumes or smoke or something in the air that is subparticles you can't even see. Their mask is to protect them from other people. What if you, thinking back to yourself in middle school, did you have to wear a mask? How did you have to show up to middle school every day so that you could fit the part? So you could be a part of the community? So you could fit in or not fit in or just be? I realized that these young men, as they were talking about their mask, in a very anonymous way, were really clear that every day they showed up to school, they had to show a certain part of themselves. Funny, happy, cool. Remember middle school? But those same young men realized that the things they couldn't show on the mask was family problems, their real life, the real stuff they were going through. And some of them even said, you know what, I can't even tell you what I can't tell you. That's how serious it is. Think about yourself in middle school. What were you going through that you couldn't tell anybody about? What were some things that you were dealing with when you were in middle school that you realized that, oh, I can't tell anybody about this. There's nobody to talk to about this. What about today? What mask do you have to wear to be respected by the people you want to be respected by? To hang out with the people you want to hang out with? To work in the place that you have to work? What mask do you have to wear? You see, we have collected in this 100,000 mask challenge, we set a challenge for ourselves, to collect 100,000 masks from all over the world. We've collected right now about 28,000 masks. And with those masks, whether we are in Colombia, South America, or we're in Canada, or we're in Auckland, New Zealand, or we're in Oakland, California, people, young, older, parents, educators, entrepreneurs, global leaders are clear that there's a part of ourselves that we have to keep behind this mask. It's not the particles that we're worried about our health. It's about our community that we don't feel we can fit into because maybe we don't accept it the way we are. Maybe no one really understands us the way we are. How about today? How about today we think about creating a better world where we can see people for more than what we can see with our eyes? I believe there's a narrative that says, well, if I see it with my eyes, then that's exactly who you are. I believe that there's way more to us than you could ever see just by looking at us. What if we could get a community where we came together more, we were more connected? What if today, in this room, you could be a little bit more real with yourself and with those around you? How about you do that today? Find somebody that you know, that you just met, and see if you're willing to say a little bit more than what you would normally say. Because if we can't change the narrative of how we see each other, maybe we gotta change the narrative of how we understand each other, and how we get along with each other, and how we build community with each other. Because the work that we've seen with not only the young men that we work with, but the students that we work with all over the country, is that they're clear that there's a part of themselves that can't be shown. Every day, 3 or more boys commit suicide. There are 2.4 million people incarcerated in the United States. Over 94% of them are men. I don't think that the masks are just a men issue, but we can see some of the problems clearly with what's happening with our men. Not being able to talk about what we're going through, having to keep it behind a mask until it blows over, until it explodes. Sometimes the blowovers and sometimes the explosion can be cleaned up with a baby wipe. Some of the explosions take years to clean up. And so there's a call to action for you today. The campaign is called the 100,000 Mask Challenge. You can find it at 100kmask.com, and you can participate. And today when you leave, or today when you go to that site, you will see masks from different parts of the world. And the question for you Can you take off your mask? It's anonymous. It's an opportunity. But what we found that people, when they participate and when they recognize that they're not alone, it begins to build community deeper than we could ever do for just walking by each other saying hi, hello. It builds deeper connections with each other, recognizing that there's way more to us than I could ever know just by walking by you and judging you based on what you're wearing, the color of your skin, the body that you were born into. And so the call is for you today. In the back of the room, the cards are there for you to take one with you. And maybe you do it with your friend. Maybe you do it with your family. Maybe you do it with your community. Maybe you do it with just one.
Okay, guys. So I only caught like the beginning part of it. I didn't like go all the way through the video, but he's doing something more similar to like an altar call at this point, and he's just calling for it's a call of action. uh with the information that they just heard, he's asking them to sort of do something. And I wanted to show that clip because it kind of goes hand in hand in what we're talking about today. And I actually, in being on another platform today, I actually, how can I say, evolve my thinking around this topic. This was earlier today. I was on Rico and Ashan's platform. And something Ashan said, he was talking about adapting versus masking. That's how I'm wording it. And I had to think about that, and I'm like, no, I think it's different. I feel that there are times that we have to adapt. We all adapt. We all do. If we don't adapt, we will die. Okay, adaptation is a matter of survival. So is mask wearing as well, and we're going to get into that. But adaptation is more so, okay, I'm going to adapt to the temperature of the room. So I'm in a library, right? And no one is loud, no one is yelling. So when I enter the library, I am going to have a certain volume to my voice. Why? Because I am adapting to the environment of the library, but I am still remaining Hanifa, right? I'm still myself, but I adapt to that environment. So that's how I see adapting versus masking. Masking is where I come up and I present to be somebody completely different than who I am, which is Hanifa. So that was something I was challenged with earlier. And I was thinking, are we talking about the same thing where we're saying people adapt, all of us adapt versus masking? And I am going to say all of us mask or have masked in our lives, if we're honest, right? I think a lot of us, the most we've masked is when we were younger, very much so, because there's a point in our development as children where peer acceptance takes priority, right? Sometimes even over parental acceptance. So there's that stage. I want to say that stage of adolescence, particularly, where that peer group becomes like a major thing for us. And so a lot of us mask during that time because it's like, I know I'm smart, but I don't really want to present as too smart. So we found ourselves dumbing ourselves down in certain within our peer group sometimes, right? Or we know we're not about that life. We know we don't want no smoke, when you're a teenager. But the group is rowdy and they're ready to, so now you decide you gotta become that. That's masking, right? Because you could easily just say, I ain't even about that life. So I think all of us have masked. There are some of us who are adults and we're still masking. And we're going to get into why as well. But I see I got some new people in here. So before I even dive in, I'm going to shout everyone out. I saw Rhonda. Peace, Rhonda. Thank you for joining, sis. It's always love, and you know that. Peace and blessings. And then we have Sim Simma. Peace to everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your support. I think I saw Tiffany. Brooklyn is in the house. And every time I say Brooklyn, I automatically want to say blup, 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 but try and conduct myself properly on these here YouTube streets. Um, who else? I see. Oh, Raquel. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Oh, I got a new face. Peace, Raquel. Thank you so much for coming through, sis. These are my childhood people, y'all. I get that energy when I see my childhood island people show up. So thanks, Raquel, for passing through. Darren, peace. You are always supportive, sir. I so appreciate you. I so appreciate you because you were introduced to me in a certain space, and I'm still very much black conscious and so forth, but I wanted to kind of shift, because this side of me is the side of me that is a little bit more dominant, and I wanted to have these conversations and to still see you here supporting me even in this capacity. I appreciate you, sir. I really, really do. So thank you so much, Darren, and I always see you when you pass through, so it's all love. Thank you. Raquel say, yes, yes. We support each other as much as we can. So I appreciate that. Hey, sis. The family's passing through. All love. I have that thing for you. I need to get in touch with you so I can get it to you because I know you're about to roll out soon. So I haven't forgotten. Yes, guys, if you haven't subscribed as yet, or you haven't hit the like button and you just rolling up in my house without dusting your feet, I need you to go back out, dust your feet. Dust your feet means you hit the like button and the other subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. And then you come back in and join the conversation because I am ready to get into that. So y'all heard what my ad says. Please make sure you hit the like button as you enter. And she put the blazing fire at the end. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to show that clip in the beginning because I feel like it's a good segue into what we are talking about today. And so I'm just going to post the question. I'm going to see what you guys say in the chat. Um, okay, why do we wear a mask? Not about the pandemic, guys. So don't come in here playing around. Okay, so I want to put this up. This is the question here for today for you guys. This is going to be an engaging conversation, right? So by all means, I am going to be looking at you guys' answers as well. But I wanted to first start off by why do we mask? Why do you guys think we mask? If you've ever had a situation where you found yourself, because a lot of us now in our 30s and our 40s, a lot of us are now coming into ourselves. A lot of us are entering a space of like transparency, a space of authenticity, which is what we're going to be talking about today. A lot of us are just now coming into that space, right? And I really want to have this conversation because I think it takes some of us too long. And it's sort of like, how do we change that narrative to where people can learn how to be authentic at a much earlier age so that it can save them a lot of hurt and heartbreak? Because a lot of us, we have been wearing masks and it hasn't really produced good results for us, right? Because if you're wearing a mask, you're not showing up as who you are. So when you enter into certain spaces, if you don't show up as you are, then you're not really going to get the outcome that you really want at your core. So if you're saying this is the vision for my life, but you're pretty much copying or emulating, or this person is doing this and they're getting attention, so I'm going to do this so I can get attention, or this person is doing this business, so I'm going to do it because if she can make money off of it, then I'm going to do that as well so that I can get the same outcome. But we're going to talk about why authenticity is your superpower, right? Because I feel like, without saying too much, because I don't want to jump ahead, I feel like lack of authenticity is what's getting us into situations where we constantly got to compromise ourselves. And let's be real, the more you compromise yourself, the more you lose a little piece of yourself every time you do, until you get to a point where it's like, who the hell am I? How did I get here? Right? Okay, so before I get into that, I don't want to jump too far here. Let me see what Enya says. Enya says, I think we mask to be liked or loved. Eventually, though, the mask has to come off and the real you will show. And that's what I'm talking about, Enya. For a lot of us, the mask fell off much later in life. I don't want to say much later because I don't consider 30s, 40s, or even 50s that old. I honestly don't. But I just want to have a conversation around how do we avoid taking so long to unmask, right? And then how do we teach our children to do the same so that they can walk in authenticity much earlier in life? But I agree with you, Enya. She says, I think we mask to be liked or loved. Yes. That's one. I actually think a big reason, and we're gonna talk about this right here, right? We mask is this right here. Fear. We're afraid. We're afraid. We are afraid. We're afraid of being seen. We are also afraid of being invisible. Because let's be honest, there's some of us where we just have a certain type of personality and it might not be as charismatic. We might just be a little more low key, a little more quiet, a little, that's really who we are at our core, right? But so that we don't be invisible, we end up overcompensating, we end up overdoing it, we end up performing, right? So that we don't be invisible. That's a flip side of it that we don't talk about. Okay. But fear is a big one. I'm gonna delve into fear. My sister said, I think we wear masks to hide our true self. Depends on the situation. Want people to like and accept us. Yep, yep, yep. Darren said yes, fear and survival. Fear and survival. I was sharing with someone on another platform, and I know in that moment they couldn't understand what I was saying. But we were talking about bleaching, right? People who bleach their skins and their skin. And so we were talking about places like Nigeria, Jamaica, and we got into it. And I was trying to explain to them that a lot of that has to do with survival. And they couldn't understand what I was trying to communicate. So Darren brought up that point about survival. Darren mentioned survival. A lot of masking, and this is, I was explaining that bleaching is a matter of survival. In other words, these people have vision, have goals for themselves, and they also understand that if they have a lighter complexion, it's going to get them into doors that their regular complexion may not, right? It's also going to expedite their journey, right, to success in certain spaces. To me, that's survival. Now, is that my choice of survival? No, it's not, right? But some would say you don't need to bleach your skin, so you don't understand. And I would take that as well. I am not a dark skinned woman, so I'm not going to pretend to even understand that battle, right? But I don't know that I'm willing to do much, like do anything to my body, for example. I'm not willing to change the structure of my nose. I'm not willing to do those things in order to get into certain doors or into certain places or certain industries. I'm not. But for some women whose mindset is, I want to be in this space, I want to be successful as at this, it becomes a matter of survival for them, because that's the only way they know how to navigate those spaces, is to produce what those spaces are requiring of them. Now, if we want to have the conversation of the type of mindset that is, that's another conversation. That is not what I am talking about. Okay. I'm gonna come back to Inya because my aunt answered. She said, I think it's difficult to be authentic when we're surrounded by inauthenticity in social media, entertainment, etc. I agree, my aunt. I agree. And I think a lot of us are just following what we are seeing result in so-called success, right? I agree with that. But that's where you literally have to draw a line, right? You have to draw a line around yourself. You have to set perimeters for yourself, okay? So it boils down to authenticity is what? We're going to get into that right now. This is a good segue. So let me just see what Inya says. She said, can it be fair of being rejected too? Yes. Yes. Yes, she's like, it's like a defense mechanism. Yes, it's a defense mechanism and it's also a coping mechanism. Yes, the fear of being rejected. What if they don't like me? Right? What if they don't like what I have to say? What if they, think that I am not, I don't know, rambunctious enough? I'm not loud enough. Or what if they think I'm not quiet enough? I could tell you guys, and this is a topic that I am open about. So I am not a soft-spoken person. I am not, I just, that's not me. I'm not gonna pretend that I am. I'm not. Okay. I'm not. But what I had to learn is that doesn't negate the fact that I am intelligent, I am wise. It doesn't take away from that, right? Because I've had people say to me, you get really loud, and I'm not mad. I'm really just expressing myself. This has been said to me, right? And for a long time, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna work on it or whatever. Yeah, let me tell you right now, I realize that when I get excited and I get passionate about something, I talk very sternly because that's how most people in my culture talk. We are not islands all onto ourselves. We're just not, right? We are amalgamation of so many different things, right? You cannot know me without knowing my culture. You just can't. I just had this conversation with someone. You cannot extract someone from their experiences and their culture, right? To then analyze them because they don't show up the way that you do. And I've learned to accept that. I am proud of the culture that I come from. I'm proud to be a Black Caribbean woman. I am. I don't shy away from that. I talk with my hands. I project my voice. That doesn't take anything away from me, right? If that's all you see when you approach me, then that says more about you than it does me. So talking about mask, I almost wore that mask. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna practice in the mirror, and that's not how my fire works. But I just had in my head, I'm gonna practice in the mirror, and I'm just gonna practice being a little bit more reserved. And I wasn't even like that when I was a Christian. I'm just putting this out here, a little more reserved, a little more quiet. I'm gonna show up a little differently, and that doesn't work for me because I've been working on my authenticity for quite some time. So now that I'm an adult, I'm a grown woman, I'm not about to undo all that work just to accommodate one individual or even two. Do you know how many people there are in this world? Somebody is going to love your authenticity. You are going to resonate with someone, right? What you have to offer, someone needs your personality and how you deliver. Someone needs that. That is going to resonate with someone. Okay. What happens is we get in these circles, not just on social media, outside in real life. We get in certain circles and we start to kind of watch how people, function around us. And we really think that the only way for us to offer something is to show up like somebody else. And that's a lack of authenticity, right? Which is going to get you in trouble. You are not going to get the outcomes. And I'm speaking of the outcomes that you want in your core, not what we say to the world we want. Because a lot of us are out here lying about our visions, right? A lot of us are out here lying about what we really want. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I don't, this is not a knock on anyone. I'm for it, right? This hustle. I was talking to someone, 10 streams of income, girl boss culture will put some of us women in a space where we really just want a simple life. But when we come into these spaces, we actually feel condemned for desiring a simple life. I'm one of those people. I don't care about all of that. I really just want a simple life, right? But when you come into certain spaces, specifically social media, when that's shoved down our throats, you could actually feel guilty about that desire. You could actually start questioning your vision for yourself. Is it enough? You know what I'm saying? Am I lazy because I don't want to create 10 streams of income? Um, am I less than? Am I less productive? Am I less worthy? Am I less valuable because I don't show up like that? So then now we start to create another part, another version of ourselves, right? Because we're trying to keep up with the rat race. We're trying to keep up with, whatever the vision is out there that's competing with our vision. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So we're gonna get into it. Okay. Inya says, yes, sis, so true. The environment makes you feel less than or that you are doing something wrong. Absolutely. You will feel convicted in certain spaces. And here's what I say to that. You have two choices. Okay. First, let me just put this. If you're in a space like that where you're feeling like you have to be, that's probably not your people. That's probably not your tribe. So now that you know that, right, that's probably not your people, right? You have two choices. You are either going to show up authentically yourself, right, and provoke others to do the same, because I could promise you the people that you're trying to acclimate your vision with are probably wearing masks as well. So here you are trying to adjust your vision to someone else's false vision of themselves. So now two of y'all sitting up in there, false as hell, pretentious as hell, losing yourself, and for what? So you have two choices in those environments. And you guys see I'm getting loud because that's how I talk. Okay, we talking about authenticity. We're gonna be authentic today. This is how I talk. I am not mad. I'm not yelling at you guys. This is just how I talk. This is how I drive my points. So we see you get into those spaces. You know that's not your tribe. You know that's your people. You got two choices. You are either going to show up as your authentic self and provoke them to also show up as their authentic self, or you are going to leave that space and either find your tribe or create a space where your tribe is going to find you. That's your decision. But you cannot sit in a space like that that's constantly tugging at those parts of you and constantly subliminally, indirectly telling you that you are less than, that you are not enough, that your authentic self is not enough. Because eventually it's going to break your spirit. Eventually it's going to shatter your vision that you have for yourself. So you either are going to walk right into self-destruction, or you are going to make a decision to be authentically you and shift the environment and provoke others to do the same, or you're going to walk away and create an environment where people could come and be themselves. That's your two choices. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. Inya say yeah. Yes, Rhonda. Yes, thank you. She says, let me say I can't be better than anyone other than myself. Absolutely, absolutely not. Absolutely not. My aunt said we change ourselves and lean towards being inauthentic because when we're being authentic, it can offend their inauthenticity. Yes. Yes, now y'all gonna make me go find this quote, okay? So they want you to change to make them feel better about their decision. I agree. When they say misery love company, right? I'm about to pull up something right now because my aunt, you done took it there, sweetie. So here's what we're gonna do. And I know all you guys know this quote, okay? I'm gonna pull it up because I don't know it word for word, but I know all of you guys know this, because if you have watched movies, I think it was the movie with Denzel. Is it Denzel? No, with the basketball team. I can't think of who was in it, but once I start saying it, this is by, y'all know, this is by that woman Marianne Williamson, right? I'm gonna read it. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Right? Let's start there. That's what my aunt is speaking to. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, Who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of the Creator that is within us, the divine in us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberate others. I know you guys have heard that. Okay, that is by Marianne Williamson. Okay, you guys have heard that somewhere before. But our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is that we are powerful beyond measure. That's a powerful statement. A lot of us are not afraid, right? Because we are inadequate. A lot of us, I mean, when you by yourself and you thinking about yourself, you don't do you guys ever experience where you think about yourself and you literally got stopped because now your mind is going to places that your body is having a hard time catching up on? Your spirit is literally taking you into spaces about yourself and showing you things, and you literally got to stop yourself because you feel like you're about to explode. That is really what you are capable of. That's why. And what happens is that we shy away from it because we are afraid, because we tend to be around a bunch of other people who dumb themselves down, right? Who dim their lights. So all of us are doing it to each other, all of us. So I wanted to read that quote because when I read what my aunt said, that's kind of what came to my mind. She said, I find that whenever Rhonda says, I find that whenever I think I've taken off my mask, there's another one I have to take off. Yes. Look, Rhonda, these masks are layered. They are layered. But here's the thing. This is why I believe in not running away from challenges, from situations that are difficult, because difficulty creates expansion, right? Difficulty demands growth. Difficulty demands growth. So when you enter into certain situation that challenges you, if you are a person that wants to grow, that you're on that journey of really self-development and growth and healing, difficult situations, when you find them, and I say this as someone that was a runner. Okay, I tell people all the time, I'm a recovering runner. Trust me, I will leave you in my dust. Okay, I will literally choose to not even engage in the situation. Oh, you want to fight? Okay, you're gonna be fighting with your shadow because honey for rolling out, right? Or you don't like me. Okay, you don't like me. Moving on. Okay. But when certain situations present themselves too, I'm learning to sit in them, because oftentimes the growth that you're looking for in your own life, right? The next level, because we talk about leveling up, the next level, right, that you're looking for is often in the difficulties or the challenges or the conflicts that you're trying to avoid. I'm going to say that one more time. Usually, okay, the growth that you're looking for, the next level that you are hoping to experience, exists in the difficulties that you are constantly avoiding. I had to learn that, and so I've been working on that on myself as well. But I see all you guys. I see Darren says their greatest fear too. Yeah, we all do it to each other. So I'm gonna move on because I have something I want to show about authenticity, right? So let me just bring this up. I hope you guys can see this. I see my sister Pieces. Thank you for passing through. Yay, I got my people up in here. Okay. Anyway, focus. I'm the little sister guy, so I get real hyped. I love my sisters. But okay, so mask. I'm gonna read this out. Okay. I hope I'm trying to see. I might have to remove my my ticker because it's just black. It's just, it's not letting me be great right now. Okay. So it says she had blue skin, and so did he. He kept it hid, and so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. Yeah, when I read this, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is it. This is where the church be like, one Lord. one aim, one destiny, amen. And shut off the church lights and everybody go home. This right here is a loaded little poem, okay? I'm gonna read it again. It says, she had blue skin, and so did he. He kept it hid, and so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. Imagine. Yeah, I had to bring that up, guys. I'm gonna come back here. So the reason why I saw that quantum pieces, I actually I was gonna reach out to you. I will be making you I just let me know. I want to make you a moderator. Because one of my moderators had reached out and said that they weren't gonna be here today. So I was like, okay. So I was like, wait, I think quantum is wisdom in the group, and I wasn't sure. So you could tell me yes or no if it's okay, but I did want to make you a moderator because you're usually here supporting me. But yes, and I think Inya, I don't know, I think Inya is one of my moderators. Inya, let me know if you're a moderator as well. But anyway, so yeah, Tiff, I read that, and it's short and powerful, right? Because what the poem is saying, and I'm gonna bring it back up for those of you guys that are just coming in. What the poem is essentially saying, you have two people who are hiding their true color, which is blue. Okay. And then they are both searching for blue and they pass each other, right? And really, they are both blue, but because they're presenting as someone else, they don't even see that what they need is right in front of their face, right? I thought that was a powerful little poem. Okay, and I'm gonna get into some little quotes later on. But yes, so I want to get into authenticity and what authenticity is. So I'm gonna go back. What it means to be authentic. What does authenticity mean? It authentic, like I said, of undisputed origin. It simply means being genuine. Okay, being genuine, staying true to who you are. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the adaptation piece, like adapting to environments, because I think the conversation usually comes up like, what about you go to work? I'm not showing up to work the way I show up in my family spaces, and I get that. For me, that's adapting. That is not the same as masking. That's not what we are talking about here, right? That's you adapting to your environment. So for me, I look at it as you then tap in to that part of yourself, because we all have various parts of ourselves. Like I use the example of as the library at the library. I am not going to go into the library talking the way I talk at my family barbecue. Why? Because there's a side of me, there's something within me that knows how to be quiet and how to show up like that. So when I get into that space, I automatically tap in to that side of myself. So I adjust to the environment. That is not masking. That is something different. So I don't want you guys that do that think that, oh, so is she saying that even because I act this way over here? We're not talking about code switching. Okay. There's a lot of code switching is code switching in behavior, code switching in language, how we speak. All of us code switch. And I tell you guys, my code switching suck because when I start getting serious, I know y'all to hear my accents coming out, right? My accent will come out strong, right? So code switching, the only walk but for so far for me, right? So I'm not talking about code switching when I'm talking about unmasking. I'm talking about literally playing yourself down to fit into spaces. I am talking about you, right? A triangle trying to fit, trying to shape shift yourself to fit into a square. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, that's not what that's we're not talking about code switching. I'm talking about masking, hiding who you are because you are afraid of not being accepted, because you are afraid of being judged, because you are afraid of being rejected, right? Because you are afraid of not being good enough, of not being valuable, of not being worthy. Okay. I'm talking about you entering into relationships and finding out what he likes, right? And completely changing, trying to change yourself so that you can secure the relationship versus being honest about who you are and determining whether you guys are fit or not. How many, just you guys can raise your hand, right? How many of us have been in relationships or have entered into relationships where we find ourselves losing ourselves because we really, really like the person? How many of us have been in friendship circles, in certain environments where we find ourselves completely shifting, shape shifting, completely losing ourselves in an attempt to hold on to that situation, to that friendship, to that group of people, to that relationship? You don't have to say anything. You guys could just put the church finger up or just put a hand up, because I know we've all been there. I've been there. Okay. Let me see what you guys are saying. Inya says, is it a chameleon in a good way? I actually think the chameleon thing is adaptation. Honestly, I really believe that. I know we use the chameleon. We use the chameleon as an example, like, oh, that person is a chameleon. I think we use it within the wrong context oftentimes. Yeah, I really think so. So chameleon for me would be adaptation, right? You adjusting to the environment because the environment demands that you tap into that side of yourself. A chameleon already has the ability to adjust to his environment inside of them. So when they get into a green space, they have the ability to tap into themselves where that they could blend in, right? Because it's a situation where they don't need to stand out. I'm not talking about that. That's not necessarily masking to me. You guys disagree. I'm open to being wrong in this situation. I saw somebody else coming. Lucky, peace, Lucky. Welcome back again. Thanks for passing through and showing some love. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see new faces. This is, yeah, she said that thought passed my mind. Raquel is saying yes. Inya says I'm guilty. Yeah. Quantum said I like the word shape shifting. Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. We know damn well we not a square. We know that we are a triangle, and here we are. And what do? Think of how painful it is to try to go from a triangle to being a square. Like, what do you have to do? The pain that you have to endure to even shift into that shape. I mean, there's a part of yourself you have to lose to become that. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the masking I'm talking about. Darren says, wouldn't that be a form of submission? I don't see it like that. Submission is a little bit different to me, Darren. And you can expound on that because maybe I'm missing what you're saying. Rhonda says, is the problem that there are so many toxic environments we have to Yes, Rhonda. And let me tell you something. One of the most toxic environments that we enter into every day is social media. It is. It's social media. It is. Let me tell you something. You could watch one toxic thing, right? And your algorithm gets real excited. Yes, she likes the toxicity. We're going to keep feeding it to her. So every time now there's some drama or something going on, it's showing up because you keep engaging in it, right? So your algorithm is like, oh, so we like this. We like this. Okay. So I'm going to keep giving it to her. That's what I'm going to do, right? So yes, I think oftentimes you could come into a toxic space and you are not really a toxic person in real life, but you realize very quickly that in order to survive and function in that space, you almost have to become that, right? I don't believe in you have to. I believe that we always have choice, right? And when we catch ourselves that we are losing ourselves in the toxicity. In fact, we are becoming toxic to navigate and to survive the toxicity. I think that's where we have to step back and reset and recenter and really ask, who am I and why am I in this space? And then once you get your answer, because I feel like when we recenter, we get back to the core of who we are. Then you have to ask yourself, so now when I enter into that space, I am either going to bring something different or I am going to adjust to the space. So if the space is toxic and I adjust to it, then I lose myself if that's truly not who I am, right? You lose yourself. So now you're becoming what you don't really like just so you could fit in to that space. So it's really a decision that everyone has to make, honestly, Quantum says, I agree. Social media used to be fun. MySpace was so much fun. Yes, it was, girl. I miss those days as well. I didn't even engage on that level. Lucky says, yes, social media is bad for the spirit. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that a lot of us, the disconnect that we're feeling for each other, I think the quick swiping, um, like my boo was explaining to me how so much we don't even realize just how much stimulation like we are experiencing, or putting like we're engaging in. That's the word I'm looking for, engaging in. He was explaining to me, he was like I find that I have a screen open and I'm listening to something while scrolling social media, and I'm guilty of that. I could be listening to something on YouTube and I'm on Instagram, or I'm Googling something, or I'm doing research, right? That's a lot going on, right? And so what can happen is you're not even paying attention to what's getting into you, what's getting into your spirit. And we talk about the subconscious mind. I was talking to someone and I was using the example, right, of this guy, this minister. And he was pretty much teaching the church. That's when I was a Christian. He was teaching the church like the importance of the subconscious mind around like music, because he's one of those that kind of go hard after hip hop. And what he did on his thing was he sang the song, the best part of waking up. And then he pointed the microphone to the audience, and everybody was like, "It's Folgers in your cup." He was like, "Where you learn that song from? Who taught you that song?" Right? And the point he was trying to make is that all of us have that song in our spirit from watching the commercial over and over and over. No one taught it to us, right? But when we hear it, we connect with it, and the subconscious mind gives us the lyrics to join in with the song. So he used the example of like going into stores and you're just busy shopping, doing your thing, and that music gets into your spirit. It does, right? So if music can do that, how much more the information that we're constantly consuming, right? What we're listening to, what we're seeing, what we're experiencing with our emotions, right? How much more all of the things that we're taking in the conversations that we are engaging. Another example would be you sit in the company of people, right? And it's five, let's say it's five of y'all, and y'all are talking, and the whole group, except you, because you don't know the person, but they are talking about that person like a dog, okay? Like a dog. You don't even know them. You have not met them, okay? And they're talking about the person like a dog. Oh, she in this, or she's this type of person. And you are, even though you are not partaking, like you are not adding to the conversation, you are consuming it. You are taking it in. What happens when you meet that person? What happens? You already have a preconceived notion of who they are. You already have prejudgments. That's why you meet people and you don't even know why they don't like you. I could tell you oftentimes it's because they don't heard something about you. So that's another example. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So yes, I kind of went off on a tangent, but yes, social media definitely is bad for the spirit, Lucky. We have to be diligent in gatekeeping every aspect, every entryway, right? That's the eyes, that's the ears. We have to be diligent in gatekeeping those things about ourselves. So it boils down to, who are you trying to become? Where are you trying to go, right? And so let me tell you something, right? My boo, right, is like walking on like, building muscles, right? And I know he probably watching this. Don't come for me after this, sweetie, okay? But let me tell y'all, I be so annoyed every time I go down in the basement, or he comes up here and he puts I'm gonna put the ticker down, Lucky, so that you can have that. But every time, yeah, guys, if you want to donate, the Cash App is Goddess Hanifa. If you're not following me on Instagram, thanks, Lucky, because I have to remind myself to go over this. If you are not following me on social Instagram, my Instagram is The Real Hanifa. And if you haven't subscribed, liked, or shared, please do so at this time. So let me tell y'all the story, right? So he is like into his, like, he's trying to build his muscles and all that stuff, right? And so I'll go downstairs and I swear to y'all, while he's working, while he's eating, all of that, right? He's constantly watching health videos, fitness videos, and I sent him a message one time, and he really he's one of my inspiration. I have a good guy, guys. I'm not even gonna front, but I realize what he's doing. Right? He is feeding his vision. That's what he's doing. He's feeding his vision. So whatever your vision is for yourself, That's the stuff that you want to consume, the things that are in alignment with that vision. That's the thing you want to surround yourself with, right? You want to be a wife, you better get around some other good wives, right? You want to be a better mother, you better get around some mothers who, is raw and straightforward, but always working on being better parents. That's what you do. What is your vision? Make that clear, make it plain, and then get in alignment. Do the things that are in alignment with that vision. So that's a part of gatekeeping. Nope, that's not where I'm going, so I don't want to listen to this. Nope, that's not where I'm trying to do, so I don't want to see this. Nope, that's not where my vision is, so I don't even want to partake in this. I don't want to speak on that. Okay. But let me check what you guys are saying right now, because you guys are really engaging and I love it. Yes, and yeah, I agree. She said social media can be used for good, but it has to be a healthy balance. There are a lot of great people. Yep, and that's the algorithm I'm talking about. That's why I just used the example of my boo, because he is using social media as a good tool, because it's like, where does he see himself? So he is trying to make sure that what he's watching, what he's listening to, and so forth is in alignment with that. He also understands the power of the subconscious mind. So even though he's working, he's allowing the information to still come through, right? To still pass through his mind, so that when it's time for it to come forward, it's there, right? Your mind has what it needs to tap into, right? So yes, it can be used for good. I don't know what my sister is saying here. She's talking about washing hands. Oh, she was trying to pull her hands up. Darren says social media is a form of programming. Not a form. It's not a form. It is programming. But yes, I hear what you're saying. It is. Yes, media in general is programming. Maat say yes, constantly being stimulated by all our senses. Social media is doing exactly what it was designed for it to do by keeping us engaged. Absolutely distracted. Lucky say eyes and ears are the gateway to the soul. We have to be careful of how much shit we eat up every day. It downloads in. Yes, and that's what I'm speaking to. So thank you for that, Lucky. All right, I just want to make sure I acknowledge you guys. Inya says that same behavior takes place in the pulpit too, but I digress. Inya, we are leaving the pulpits alone today, sis. Okay, we're not. Let's see. Raquel say amen. That's it right there. Yep. Enya said, Quantum says, write the vision, make it plain. Yeah. Rhonda says she taking notes. Appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop the link. If you guys want to come up, feel free. I'm always open to having conversations with you guys. It's no pressure. You don't necessarily have to, but feel free. I'm dropping the link right now in the chat if you want to join the conversation, because I really want to hear from you guys. And I'm glad you guys are engaging me from the chat and giving me that feedback. So what I want to then go to is my next thing. So we went over what authenticity is. And so Michael Jordan lets us know. This is a quote from Michael Jordan. Authenticity is about being. Let me see if I can remove this, guys. 1 minute. Yeah, okay, there we go. Michael Jordan says authenticity is about being true to who you are, even when everyone around you wants you to be someone else. And I'm going to build on that and say authenticity is an act of bravery. Authenticity is, I'm building on this one. Authenticity is an act of courage. People who choose to be authentic every day are not punks. It is not a simple thing to do. And I am building here because I want to make sure I say that it is not a small task. It is not some small thing to do. It takes courage to be authentic. It does. It takes courage to show up as you are and let the chips fall where they may. It takes courage. It takes courage to speak up. It takes courage to allow your light to shine bright, even when everyone else around you is demanding that you dim it. It's demanding that you turn the volume down on your voice. It's demanding that your personality is too loud, so you need to tone it down. Your colors are too bright, so you need to wear more dull colors, right? It takes courage. It takes bravery. It's not a small thing. It just isn't. So I wanted to make sure I go through some of these quotes because I have some others. Authenticity is not a small thing. It's not. Let me bring myself up to say this to you guys. It's not. It's not. There are situations that we have all been in that we thought we felt like we could have been a little bit more braver. We could have been a little more transparent because we know had we shown up as we are from the beginning, we would not find ourselves in the dilemma that we're in currently, right? Because let me tell you something. When you are inauthentic, at some point, your inauthenticity will be challenged. At some point, you're going to hit a crossroad. You're going to hit a crossroad and you're going to have to decide, am I just going to relinquish this mask and give up this mask that I'm wearing? Or am I going to create a whole nother mask to pile on top of that mask? And somebody said earlier that the masks are even layered. Rhonda said, when I peel back one mask, I find there's another mask to kind of like, deal with as well. You know why? A lot of us are not who we see ourselves are. We are who we are told we should be. That's why the layering start at a very young age. Anyone that is a mother know that our children, right, are always trying to please us, right? They don't want no smoke, y'all. The little toddler that I'm always talking about, even him, they don't want no smoke. They don't want no problems with us, these children. So what do? They adjust to what you are projecting. They make adjustments at some point. Once they hit about 3 to 5, that's when you start to see children start to change themselves based on on what the environment allows or disallows. It starts early, and I'm using children because we were all once children. So the layering begins very early in life. So you take on one mask, right? In my home, it's not safe to show up as this. So I'm going to give my mother or my father what they want, mask. Now we got going to school. In this space, they don't want me to be this way. So I'm going to constantly show up as this, mask. Then you hit adolescence. And then you start hanging out with your peers and you have your little posse and your little group. And it's like, this is who I need to be in this group. Mask. Now you've gone college and you hit your 20s and mask. Now you're in your 30s and 40s trying to figure out how to unmask. And that's why it's so layered. Because you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna get to where you actually took on your first mask. And that's usually childhood, right? I find myself going back to my core and realizing the things that are really true about me that I really love are things that I loved when I was a child. That's what I'm realizing, y'all. When I peel back the layers, I'm like, wait, hold up now. Hold up. Wait, I like helping people. I like provoking people. I like helping people grow. I like encouraging people. I like teaching, right? That's always been who I am, who I was as a child. So yeah, I'm at the layer now of childhood, right? I'm almost there. So yeah, it's multi-layered because it starts very early in our development. And I am bringing up to the stage none other than my sister, my aunt. Peace. You're on mute.
Pieces.
Peace. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are
I'm
you enjoying the conversation?
I am enjoying the conversation. It's funny because I was about to go there. Like when I hit on the button, I was like, she's saying what I was about to say.
So, what do you think about the topic on hand, unmasking and how authenticity? Because I haven't even got into how authenticity is our superpower. I'm about to transition into that. But what
Mhm.
do you think about the topic so far?
Yes, I love the topic. Something that I was thinking of when I was, because my question I had already I had written down the question, and I had wrote down, how do we know when we are actually being genuine or authentic? Because when we're brought into the world as a baby, we're brought into something.
Mhm.
So, at what point do we kind of learn that? And I was talking to my older kids earlier today, because just like we have our toddler who's 3 years old, and how they're more in their authenticity, they're more in, like, even the way, like, when you had that, I think it might have been last week when you were talking about the whole idea of actually just observing an emotion.
Mhm.
That's what toddlers do.
Yes.
They don't hold on to that emotion.
Mhm.
You could chastise them, whatever, and then 5 minutes later, they're back loving on you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it's very important, when it says, like, I think in the Bible it says, like, be like a child,
Mhm.
really honestly trying to get back to that kind of authenticity,
Mhm.
because we have put on those masks. And just like Rhonda said, like, you take off one mask and you still have layers of masks that are still there. So it's that's why I wrote down that question, because how do we really know? Because you move to one different phase of your life and you're thinking you're being authentic, but then you're like, am I really being authentic? Am I really balanced? Am I really being you know, that person without those different masks? Because you're constantly being bombarded with all of these images, all of these things were telling you what to be. Like you said, um,
Mhm.
everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur. Um, all of these things that you're told that you're supposed to be. So it's like really having to center yourself and really work on finding out when you are being genuine. So when I was thinking about that, I was really thinking about going back to that child state
Mhm.
where they are truly authentic, where
Mhm.
they are telling you what they want, telling
Mhm.
you what they desire, being, just being. They're not, and they do start learning certain, you do start seeing it at this age where they're remembering and holding on to certain things,
Mhm.
but they're not necessarily holding it against you. They might
Mhm.
remember that you did something, but they're not holding it like, I'm mad at you. I'm not going to deal with you again. But I see the different stages, even in our older children, how they hold on to things more, how they hold on to those emotions, and how we hold on to those emotions as well. So, it was you said something earlier, and I was just like, don't come for me like that, because we're talking about being a runner, because I will, like, if I feel like you are a toxic person in my life, then I will detach from you.
Absolutely.
But going through those difficulties, sometimes you do need to go through difficulties. And maybe even in relationships, you do go through difficulties to get to a better part of yourself. And then
Mhm.
you might decide whether I need this person or not. But that was some of my initial thoughts that kind of came to when when you're having that conversation.
You took me. I just jot down my note because you made a very good point. And this is. I have a my friend and I bought some necklaces, and on the pendant it was just two letters, BE.
Mm,
B. And we used to wear those things, right? Because at that time in my study of self, that's where I was. That state of being, that
mhm,
state of being, because it starts really young, whether it's grades in school, whether it's your parents rewarding you when you please them,
mhm.
right? And punishing you when you displease them, right?
Right.
All of these are things that we take in, we internalize, right? Which then contribute to the wearing of mask,
Mm,
right? Because that reward system in our brain, right? It's sort of like this is what they like. So I'm going to keep giving it to them. This is what makes them happy. This is what makes them smile. But the being state, the state of being, and I literally had to process what that means to myself. What does that mean? What does that state of being mean? And you use the example. We have, both of us have toddlers. You
Mhm.
use the example of the toddlers. They just show up as they are, right? They could be annoying even sometimes, but it is what it is. Okay,
Right.
you either gonna accept it or you not. And guess what, my aunt? They're still gonna love you.
Right.
Whether you accept it or not, whether you are displeased and therefore punish, or you are pleased and therefore reward, they're still
Mhm.
gonna love you,
Right.
right? So what the state of being for me is understanding my worth and my value outside of producing or becoming something,
Mhm.
right? Being means that as I am, sitting in a chair, right, relaxing in the sun, walking down the walking in the park, right, driving my car, just wherever I am,
Mhm.
not having to be anything in particular, but just being that I
Right.
am worthy, that I am valuable, that I have something to contribute, right? That I am all of these things without having to be something. Do you get
Mhm.
what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
what the state of being is to me. And I'm so glad you brought it up, because that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Being. I think a lot of us don't really know how to just be. The reason why is because it is undervalued. The state of being is undervalued and dismissed,
Mhm.
right? It is not celebrated, it is not encouraged. So a lot of us shy away from it. I'm not being, are you crazy? Not up in here.
Right.
I
Right.
gotta do something. I gotta, some of us are in families where everybody's educated, right? And we don't even want to go to college. But because everybody else is educated, oh, I have to go to college.
Mhm.
Why? Because that determines my value in this space.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? But when you talk about being, I think a lot of us now are on a path to discovering exactly what that means,
Mhm.
And that comes with peeling back the layers, because just like you said, as we peel back the layers, eventually you get to that childlike state of being.
Right.
And when you get to that state, your perception of the world changes, your
Mhm.
interaction with people, how you navigate the world, all of that changes. Because
Right.
to see the world through the eyes of a child, can you
Mhm.
imagine? Because you know they do not see the world the way we do, girl.
No. They're the wonders that they see. They'll look at the moon and be like, wow, look at look at the moon, look at the sky, like it's amazing to see the transition that children go through, because they're amazed at almost everything. And
Yes,
going back to that, and that has helped me stop and be amazed too, because it is amazing. Like you do start reflecting and saying, like, the moon is magnificent, the sun is magnificent, the beauty of the sky, or the nature, that all of that is magnificent, like just the smallest thing.
the
And
smallest things.
it's something that even with being, because I just told my kids this today, our oldest kids, I said, understand that there's nothing you have to do for me to love you, for us to love
Mm,
you.
mm,
Like, we love you just because you exist. There's nothing that you do that's gonna make us love you any more or any less. Like, you just are, like, and that reminds me of being, like, just
yeah,
because they exist.
yeah,
So just because we exist,
yes,
we add value to the world
yeah,
just because we exist.
yeah. If you never do a one daggone thing else tomorrow, if you decide not to do anything else tomorrow, you are still valuable.
Right.
If tomorrow you decide, I'm just going to chill, you are still worthy. Outside of productivity, you are still a person. You are still a being that
Mhm.
has something to offer in this realm.
Right.
And if you are in circles where you cannot unmask in that capacity, where you could just show up as you are,
Right.
right? Then that's the wrong space for you. So it goes back to the quote that I read by Marianne Williamson. We are either going to provoke others to show up as their authentic self, or
Mhm.
we are going to conform. and
Right.
become our inauthentic self. You always have a choice. Okay. So I want to make sure I go to my other quotes. I see Awa. I want to make sure I recognize her. Peace for
Peace
passing
and
through. It's
light.
always a pleasure to see you guys. Awa says, I always think about Sister Ma'at speaks meditation Vigs while at acupuncture earlier. Yeah. See
Oh,
Ma'at?
you remind me. Oh, well, I gotta clip that for you.
Tiffany says this is such a necessary conversation. Be you, just be. Quantum with the fire. Pew, 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 pew. Okay, so let me go to the rest of my quotes. Let me see how I can. Is this better? Yeah, there we go. That's better. Go, Hanifa. Okay. The next one I had, if you choose, this is by Shannon L. Alder. If you choose to be fearless, then be fearlessly authentic, not an imitation of someone you envy. And I talked a little bit about that earlier, Ma'at. I'm going to read it one more time. If you choose to be fearless, then be fearlessly authentic, not an imitation of someone you envy. So this is a good transition into authenticity as your superpower,
Mm.
right? That's a good transition into that, because what I'm speaking to is the fact of us constantly comparing ourselves. This is why unmasking is so challenging, by the way. This is why it is, right? Um, I find that a lot of us unmask in environments where we recognize the energy of that space is in alignment with who we are at our core. So it's a trust thing, right? It becomes like, oh, it's safe for me to take off this mask in this space.
Right.
But if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, if you're constantly looking and saying, this is what they're doing to get ahead, so therefore this is what I'm going to do. We are in a space, both of us are content creators. The pressure could be real. It can be very real, to where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this to expedite my growth.
Right.
Right? You could decide to do certain things and say, okay, this is how I'm going to expedite my growth, right? You could decide to go on much, 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 much bigger platforms, even if they're not in alignment with whatever. I hate the word brand. I'm struggling with using the word brand here. We're in alignment with your personhood, okay? with, with who you are, but you're like, I'm just going to connect myself or attach myself to that because I want to grow my numbers, right? So we're faced with that as content creators in this space, okay?
Right.
So it's a thing of, you're either going to acclimate, you're going to conform out of jealousy, right? But like the quote said, if you're going to be fearless in your authenticity.
Right.
Be unafraid in your authenticity, right? Don't give a damn
Mm-hmm.
in your authenticity. Because the reason why I talk about it being a superpower is because here's the thing. I put a status and say, someone out there is looking for you. Someone out there needs what you have. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom I put unmask. There is a part of the population that needs Ma'at as Ma'at.
Mm-hmm.
There is parts of the population. See what happens to us is that we be trying to connect with the wrong people. I'm being honest.
Yeah. That's true.
Right? We be trying to get the wrong people. And when I say wrong people, I want to be clear. I'm talking about people who are not currently where you're at, because people can change, people evolve. You have, right? So it just means that they are just not there yet. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've learned, and people say, build it and they'll come. You've heard that before, right? Build it and they'll come. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It is your superpower. It is the thing that gets you into the doors that you really want to be getting into.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that connects you with the people that you, at your core, really want and need to connect to. That's what authenticity does for you. But if you're not authentic, you are going to connect with the things that doesn't really align with you, because
Right.
you out here trying to pretend,
Yep.
because you're trying to be a part of the bigger crowd, or the loudest crowd, or the most colorful crowd, or the most seen crowd, whatever, or the more popular crowd, whatever that is. So you're willing now to become inauthentic so that you can fit in. But your authenticity is the key to the doors that you need open.
Mm-hmm.
It's the key that gets you into the spaces that you really want to be in. It's the key to attract the people that you really want to attract, right? If you want to help people, my aunt, let's say you're a healer, okay? And you're like, man, I'm a healer, but our people is so sick that they don't even know they need healing, right? So here you go. You say, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? What's popular right now is this. So I'm going to do that instead, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a disservice to yourself because you're compromising yourself. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a disservice to the community, right? And you're robbing the people that actually need it and are ready to receive it of having it.
Mm-hmm.
Because here you are trying to become something else. That
Right.
is the superpower. It gets you what you need. That's what authenticity does. Okay. So let me go to I actually wanted to add to that before I move on because I'm trying to
I was just gonna say, because like when you do that, you usually are spinning your wheels because you're not even aligned within yourself, because you're trying to align with something that is not even for you.
ooh,
And
yeah.
so you can spend, time, a lot of times we look back and we're like, man, I wasted so much time. And you think it's kind of like when you with the wrong person, and there's people who say, I was with that person for a reason, and
Mhm,
whatever, and
mhm.
that could be, they could have helped you grow. But
Yeah.
it's like being aligned with the wrong person and wasting your time and being when you're dealing with something that is not aligned with you, then it does keep you from seeing what actually is in alignment with you, because you're being blinded by it's a distraction. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a noise. And so because of that noise, the other things that you really need are not able to get in. It reminds me of the body and nutrition. Like if you're filling your body with toxicity, and then you say, oh, I'm going to take these herbs, and thinking those herbs are going to do something, even though you bombarding it with toxicity,
Mhm.
then it's not going to do any good. You just putting herbs on top of toxicity.
That's a good point. That's a good analogy. So what I was also going to say is I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I had something to say too. That's why I be trying to write my notes down because I be
Right.
forgetting.
I know.
I, I'm so serious, but that's a good analogy that you just gave. But the masking piece is what I was trying to reference.
Mhm.
So the layering of our mask, right? To where you say, like Rhonda said, you peel back one and then you have to face another one, right? And a lot of people even talk about things like that as shadow work. But I wanted to ask you and the people that are watching, right? And I'm gonna ask this because I can answer first. I'm gonna take the lead on this, y'all. Okay. Because I think all of us, even today, we still have masks that we have to get rid of, right? You know, um, you know how people be like, you know how when something is peeling, you see the edge of it. People
Mhm.
be like, girl, your lace front showing, like that peel. That's kind of what comes to my mind when I think about mask. Like some of us we don't even realize like our mask is like coming off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what I want to ask you on the chat, and you can think of one thing, it don't have to be a whole bunch of stuff. But if there was something, a part of yourself that you would unmask, what would you look like?
Mm.
A part of yourself that you're probably masking. I know I'm getting a little deep, y'all. If you were to unmask it, what would you really look like? And I can start my because I see your little face.
Yeah, I'm like,
Um, I think for me, I toned. I'm coming, especially in this space. I'm really coming into myself and truly who I am. And I talked a little bit about it earlier. My aunt, I'm not soft spoken. I project my voice. But I'm also a very kind and introspective person. I'm very insightful. I'm about grace. And I know you hold that against me, my aunt, and so does my friends.
I don't hold it against you.
My aunt, you be like, you be like, stop giving them space for cap out, Hanifa, right? And that's okay. that's that's okay. But I was just saying that, there are certain things about myself, but there's a part of me that's very wild. And I want to explain what that is. Wild as in free spirit. Wild as in I really have non-conventional thoughts and ways of thinking and even ways of how I see myself living. Right? So what would I look like? I would look like a more free person, honestly. I would still filter what I say in the sense of respecting people. So it's not what I say, it's like how I say it, right? I'm still working on that part of myself. I would still be that, but really saying the things that I may want to say without reservation.
Right.
I would dress how I want, no matter where I'm going. you know, um, I would be a big old child oftentimes. Okay. That's my wild spirit. That's how I would show up if I was to unmask a certain part of myself, right? That I'm still working on unmasking. So that's the part of me I'm still working on and unmasking. Because sometimes we just gotta be mature. You know what I'm saying? I can't be out here acting immature, right? And so there's that part of me as well. And I'm working on that because there's a way to still be childlike and not be immature. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I get it.
So you guys let me know in the chat if there's a certain part of yourself that you are still unmasking, and when you do, what that would look like. My aunt, you could take a shot at it if you want.
Yeah, so I think that part of my unmasking has happened in this content, in this
Okay.
space, because for ever since I was young, I've been really quiet, like this super quiet, like to the point where people be like, "Do you ever talk?" So, what has happened over the years with me trying, attempting to be more authentic, tapping into who I am, who I truly am at the core of who I am. So like, cause even when you say like you loud and stuff, like you don't even seem loud to me because I'm used to women like you. And so I'm
I
just
do project my voice. I do.
yeah. So I
Wait,
get
before you go on, I have a question. Was the quiet you your authentic self? Because you said you were like that from a child.
so this is the what I've told people about me being quiet. I was around certain women and including my mother who was very like the life of the party kind of
Okay.
energy, right? Like, that's why I say like I'm used to that, you know? And so sometimes I do feel like I did have to kind of cower under that in a sense.
Under us.
And so it even got to a point where people would expect that out of me and I would feel bad that I wasn't giving them who she was or who other women that I was around were like that. So a lot of the people I think it has to do with polarity too,
Okay.
because I think a lot of the friends I had and things like that, they were the more outgoing or kind of like in your face life of the party kind of people. So,
Yeah.
it was more of maybe a polarity because even when you told me like that my gift was in observing and stuff, I never looked at it as a gift, right? Like I just looked at it as that's what I do. Or not even that. It's just an observance that that I do. So it's it
Go ahead.
so I do think that within that I have grown because I, I used to be too quiet. I'll put it that way. where
Mm.
I did not voice. So I do think one of the things that I do work on is my sakim, my throat chakra, because I don't always say what I feel. So if you unmask what I unmask me, I'm careful with what I say because I know I can hurt people's feelings. I
Oh.
say certain things.
So if you
And
unmask, you would be like unfiltered.
yeah, because
Oh, okay.
I do have moments where, I told you my moon sign is Aries. So I do have that I do have that fire within me. And so it doesn't help that my sun sign is a Virgo. So we Virgos are truth tellers. Like we
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's either we're going to give it to you rough, or we're just not going to say it at all because we know the effect that it can have on people.
yeah.
So a lot of times I'm thinking certain things, but I know that I can't let it out. I can't really truly let out. And that is a balance that I I'm trying to get to, because there are certain things that I think that should be said, but I'm not the one to really say them as poetically.
That's what I was going to say. So it's see, you just pointed out your area of that you need working.
Mhm.
So unmasking for you, and I am not a therapist, y'all. Okay, we just having a conversation like I would if I was on the phone with my aunt. Okay, so what it sounds like the area that you need to work on,
Mhm.
you can unmask, you
Okay.
can, right?
Mhm.
But you need to work on telling the truth in a way that you don't destroy someone's spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't even want to say I almost said in the way that it could be received well, because that's not on you. Because
Mhm.
we are all coming into conversation and spaces with different filters, right?
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes it's really not on you. You just present something that might be triggering to that person, right? So your work, your area of work, so that you can actually unmask, because there's a
Mhm.
freedom in that, right? Your area of work would then be, how do I be unfiltered without destroying people's spirits?
Right.
And
And
there's a way to do that.
just when you just said that, it
Mhm.
probably has a lot to do with my childhood,
Okay.
because I was around women that were very unfiltered. Like they gonna say whatever.
But were they unfiltered in a destructive way? And
Yeah,
maybe your focus is not to do that to anyone else?
yeah.
Oh boy, we getting
I
somewhere.
know. Right, right. We in a therapy session now. So so that makes sense, because I knew how it felt to feel that wrath. So now I don't want to do that to anyone else.
That you bring up a really good point, because some of us have very similar qualities in us that
Mhm.
we inherited
Yeah.
from the people that walked before us, right? But
Mhm.
those characteristic or qualities of those people have hurt us.
Mhm.
And so what we do is attempt to suppress it in us, in an effort not to hurt people the way we were hurt by those
Exactly.
qualities. But the reality is this, like, I could say there are things that I have that my mom may have had, right?
Mhm.
But I'm still, there are still things that I might work on and say, okay, they are not necessarily bad. How they are utilized is what makes them bad,
Right.
right? A hammer is not bad. But if you bust somebody upside the head with the hammer, right?
Exactly. Or
Then
steal
the
it.
hammer,
Steal it.
because of how the hammer was used, it becomes something else, right? So
Right.
instead of that person, the person who got bust upside the head with the hammer, that
Mhm.
person can decide, I'm going to just completely stay away from hammers the rest of my entire life on this planet Earth. Or I'm
Mhm.
going to recognize that the hammer was a tool and I get to decide how I use that tool.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to go too deep in, because I am not a therapist. I'm going to keep saying that, but I like to have these below the surface conversation with my family. I really do. Because I really think this is the direction of my channel. We need self-development.
Right.
And there's a place for everyone. You know what I'm saying? We need self-development in order to walk with each other.
Right.
We are not developing anything if we haven't figured out how to develop ourselves. We are not. We're not building anything if we have not figured out how to build ourselves. Because my art, if I don't treat myself like that, if I love myself, like truly love myself, I cannot mistreat you. I cannot. Because I understand reflection. I understand mirror. I understand that. So the work has to be done here so that it can be done out there. So that's kind of why I decide, like, this is the, who don't like it, you whether like it or not. But if you want to talk about developing self and talk about your business versus other people's business, you are free to come here and have those conversations. So that's the direction. So I'm glad that you even pointed that out and we were able to get to that, because there's a lot of us that's doing that.
Right.
We recognize those similar qualities and we're like, hell no, not doing that, because I remember how that hurt me when they did it.
Yeah.
But you decide how to use the hammer. You do. The hammer isn't bad. It's the person whose hand the hammer was in. You know. So Enya, I'm gonna go through the questions real quick. She said that's a good question. She said I would look helpful and sad at the same time, if that makes sense. That's like two different things existing in the same space. And oh Lord, that's a whole nother panel discussion. But anyway, so she said I would look helpful and sad at the same time. If you unmask. So that means I'm gonna assume that your mask is are you showing up as helpless and happy? Because I'm feeling your mask would be the opposite. You could clarify that, Enya. Quantum is that fire energy and the free spirit is how I personally feel connected. Oh, thank you, Quantum. Enya say helpful because okay, she's expounding. Helpful because I have such a desire to help people in need. Sad because I know people won't receive the help. Okay. So Leah said she would be habitual truthfulness is how she would show up. Sounds like my aunt Unfiltered. My aunt, you need a whole other channel called My Aunt Unfiltered. I swear.
Ooh. Don't give me any ideas, Hanifa.
Yeah, you jot that downstairs. This is another side of my aunt. Okay. Because you know what? I enjoy the fact of acknowledging that we all have these different aspects of ourselves. And out of fear, we always think that we have to choose one. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I'm learning, no, it depends on what the space calls for.
Right.
Honestly, it depends on what the space calls for. And it's not necessarily me wearing a mask. It's like, oh, I could tap into this side of myself in this space. You get what I'm saying? Because I keep imagining how I feel. We are all of us, we are never one thing. We are never just one thing. I always bear that in mind when I meet people and I'll be like, ew, I can't take this part of you. Ew. You know, so go back inside. I can't take this part. I have to always bear that in mind because I know I am not just one thing either. And I hate being locked in. Yes, and Angela said I could be loud. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And that's okay. Quantum. She says, shh. Okay, Tiffany says, for me, I think I would be this very mean person. Oh, child. Because I don't speak out what I need to say all the time. I agree. I would also be like a big kid and not care about things. Free, like as a child, be. Yeah. So she's saying, I think I would be this.
It seems like we need to have a whole movement of being free like a child. Like we need to figure out how to do this.
And the toddlers shall lead the way. But I want to speak to what Tiffany said, because I know Tiffany outside of here. And once she said that, I think I would be this very mean person. So here's every time I'm reading you guys stuff, and what I'm envisioning is what your mask is, because your mask is the opposite of what you're saying here. So you're saying that you present as this very kind person all the time, and you do. Because I know you in real life, you do. But that's a conversation that you and we've had many conversations around that, where the need to constantly be a certain thing for everyone and what that looks like. So I could see that, Tiff, definitely. Angela sends the fire for Aries. Yeah, don't play with Aries, okay? We come with all the fire, okay? She says, my rising is Aries sun, Leo moon. No, Aries sun, Leo moon equals Sagittarius. Okay, yeah, yeah. She says my sister's an Aries, so I know exactly what she's saying. Absolutely. Yeah, she said that's an Aries thing. I'm just going through you guys' comments since you guys are engaging. Same here at my ad speaks. I have to learn how to speak without destroying people. Being an empath helps. My ad, do you consider yourself an empath?
I'm just being.
How if you're an empath? I know you're a damn surgeon. Wow.
I
Listen.
don't I don't know, like, when it comes to, like, using different, different labels, I don't know. Like, I do feel others' energy. Like, I can walk up on a person and be like, "Ooh." And, like my husband has told me, he's like, "You're," you know, "when you say somebody ain't right, they ain't right." So,
Yeah, and I could say from my observation for the length of time that we've conversed and so forth, I say you're a surgeon,
mhm.
right? But you don't like people to know you're a surgeon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I know that. I'm aware of that because, and not only that, you are very careful when and where you use your tools. And when I
Yeah.
say that, is because you know, right, that you could do some damage. You're aware of that.
Mhm.
I've spoken to you, and I see you checking your thoughts, even though it's over the phone. I'm seeing you checking your thoughts. You're being careful. Okay, let me reel myself back in.
Right.
It's funny because even though you're like, I grew up around women like that, you're very aware of how destructive that could be if
Mhm.
you're not careful. So you are aware of it,
Right.
right? So it's just a matter of unmasking that without figuring out a way how you could be fully that, where
Mhm.
you could be that person that people know if I come to my aunt, she gonna give it to me straight
Mhm.
without completely crushing them.
And so I think I can do that. I'm able to do that with people I'm close to.
Okay, okay.
So I'm usually,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can get a little rough, but usually I can do that with people I'm close to. It's figuring out how to do this with people needing that honesty, but at the same time, you don't necessarily. And I don't even know. Do I need to say that to people I don't have a relationship with? I don't know.
No,
Yeah, I don't think so.
no.
Like, am I gonna tell you you're a terrible person if
Right. So you're measuring it. It's like,
right,
is it even necessary?
right.
Okay, I got that. I could see that. I got that. So I'm gonna go to my next slide, which is Alan Cohen. Another quote: "Everything will line up perfectly when knowing and living the truth becomes more important than what? Looking good." I want to be seen as this person, right?
Mm,
Let me bring us up my ad because I'm gonna see this. I'm gonna see this real good. Let me see if I could bring us up. Where you at, my ad? Don't go nowhere. Right there. Boom. I'm gonna say this. You know what I learned? A lot of us don't really know how interesting we are.
mhm.
A lot of us find ourselves to be boring. We think we're boring. And then some people who kind of like are always in the shadow, and I've talked to them, and they might say one little thing. I'm like, well, hold up, hold up, hold up. Do tell. What? I would have never guessed. Right?
Mhm.
And you're like, oh my gosh, like, why do you hide that part of yourself? Because that part of yourself, there's so many people looking for that. Right? A lot
Mhm.
of people are like online and stuff looking for exactly what we're talking about, authenticity,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people are looking for people who have similar stories to theirs.
Mhm.
Okay, but I think a lot of that has to do with healing as well, my art, because I really think that if you haven't come to terms, right, or like you're not in a space of learning how to live with what happened,
Mhm.
it's hard for you to really be transparent about it. You're not going to talk about it, you're not going to share it because you're ashamed. That's the word I'm looking for, shame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame involved. So but it's funny because I'll see people will be like, nobody want to hear what I gotta say. Anybody gonna listen to me? Anybody, I see people like that. And those are some of the most interesting people I know, right? Those are
Mhm.
some of the people that got the most interesting stories. Right? They got the tea, y'all. They got the real tea. They got the juice. Okay. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But like I said, what happens to us is we buy into charisma and popularity. And because we do not deliver our message in the same way, we think that it has no value.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We think that it has no value. So I go back to this. Wait, sorry. Everything will line up perfectly when knowing and living the truth becomes more important than looking good. And I
So
go ahead.
I'm sorry. That makes me think of how in kind of the Black consciousness community, and it makes me think of how we it's more important
Mhm.
about what people see me as. Somebody needs to see me
Mm.
as a healer. People need to see me as highly enlightened, or they need to see me meditating on the top of a mountain. Like you know, they need to see it.
Wait. I'm gonna come for my church brothers and sisters right now. They need to see me with my eyes closed and my hands up in church. Otherwise,
Yes.
I'm not coming off as sanctified. You know what I'm saying? Like they need to see. Like yes, go ahead, my aunt.
Yes. So with that being said, I say this all the time. The best time, like when you're on vacation, are you really having a time of your life if you're constantly taking pictures and trying to pose and like everybody got like, or when you are really having a good time, you don't stop to take pictures. You just enjoying
You're
that
in the
time.
moment. I
You're in
agree.
the moment. Like when you're in your relationship thriving, you don't have to take 50 million pictures so someone sees that you have a good relationship.
Yeah.
So that just reminds me of actually living in truth. That means that you are living it and no one else needs to know that you're really living it. And when they encounter you, they'll feel it, right? Like they'll feel it like, oh, something going on with you. But you don't have to. I come from a family
Mm-hmm.
completely, mostly just Christian people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and sometimes they feel like they're kind of getting at you because they're like, oh, wait, you that, right? But at the same time, or like you live in that dangerous life. But what happens is that when you are really living in authenticity and truth, none of those things matter. Like you're just like, I'm not really thinking about what you're saying. I'm just living authenticity, living in actual truth, because I don't believe in that's your truth kind of,
Yes. Yes.
truth.
Mm-hmm.
Living in actual truth. And I like the definition that you gave of authenticity, because I forgot what it said, the origin.
Yes. Uh-huh.
It's the
Let me
origin
go
to me, that origin, that word origin matters.
Let me go back. Of undisputed.
Undisputed, yes, undisputed
Mm-hmm.
origin. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is that's what matters. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when I think about what truth comes from, that undisputed origin, like,
Mm-hmm.
and being that. So when you look at what authenticity is, it's actually truth, and it's that undisputed origin of truth. So
Yeah, the embodiment.
yes, the embodiment of it.
The
Yeah.
embodiment of truth. I agree. I agree. And it's so funny. You touched on so many things because in that little one spiel, because you touched on the social media thing, and I know that we live in an age. If it's not on social media, then it's not true. That's
Mm,
the age we live in.
yep. Yep.
And people have bought into it. Like I've heard other people say, like, well, what do you do? Right? And they're asking that because they haven't seen you post anything about what you do. Because in their mind, if you're not posting what you're doing, then you're not doing anything.
Right.
Right? If you don't post your man, then you ain't got a man. If you don't post your girl, then you ain't got a girl.
Hmm.
If you don't post your picture of yourself as a couple, then you ain't happy.
Right.
We make all sorts of assumptions, right? And it's funny because I was going to tell you I'm going to take it even deeper. Not having a ring don't mean you're not married.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the biggest ring in the store to
Or
prove you're married.
the biggest ceremony.
No,
people spending thousands of dollars to get divorced
correct.
like few years later, and let's say that you put that into the actual relationship.
Yes,
You know,
yes. So
and
when you were just talking, I was like Darren said, my aunt sealed the deal with the picture example. That's social media. That's the age that we live in. And since we're
right.
talking about authenticity, the reality is that one captured moment is not all of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have been arguing right before you took that picture.
Right.
Right? You and that person could have fell out right after you took the picture. But
Mm-hmm.
here we are, one frozen moment, and we get caught up in it. We see it happen with people with celebrity goals. How is a picture your goal?
Right.
You don't even know these people.
Right.
How are they your goals? Have you sat with them for counsel?
Mm-hmm.
Have you talked to them? Are you in their life? Do y'all hang out? Y'all travel together? How does a frozen moment become goals?
Yes. Yes.
But that's the age we live in, because it's like, if it's on social media, that means it's real. If they are smiling and holding hands, they are happy.
There was a picture I saw years ago, and it was showing that it was this it was a bride and groom, I guess, and it was showing they had got married, and they had like you couldn't see what their arms. And so when they turned it around, I think they had like two, they turned it around, and he was like holding on to her arm, like grabbing it, like he was like, like in an abusive
Yes.
way. So in the front, they look perfect, like the perfect couple. In the back, it was, it was like grabbing her, like, like she was in abuse. So you don't know. A picture can only say so much. It's just like you could take a picture with your kids, but then a couple minutes before that, they was driving you crazy, So it's so many things. It's just like during life, people only usually show you the good moments. It's just like a before and after picture. People be like, oh, I want to get there. I want that body. But they don't want to go through the work that it took to get to that body.
But that's a mask too, you know that. The constant only showing the good moments is a form of a mask. It's a form of masking as well, what we're talking about. Because this is who I want the world to perceive me as. So what I'm going to do is only post the highlights, the high times in my life. Because I want you to perceive me as someone who I just travel and I'm just living my best life and I bask in the sun and I'm the best mother there is on the planet. Okay? Or whatever. And so yes, that's a form of mask wearing as well. Because what mask is saying, this is who I need to be perceived as.
Right.
Not who I am, but who I want to be perceived as. What is the image I'm trying to project onto my aunt so that then she could then perceive me in that manner. So frozen moments are good tools for that. And that's what people use, Quantum said if she was to unmask truly, she'll be very similar to the goddess Sekhmet. Warrior.
All right.
Coming through. And it's funny. When I've learned about some of the goddesses and everything, it's so funny because I'm like, I really feel like these are just parts of ourselves. Versus like entities. Do you get what I'm saying? I've always thought that I'm like, wow, okay, because I know I got some Sekhmet in me. But I don't be finding any worthy cause to unleash her. Like most of the stuff that I see is just not worthy of that for me. Like everything is not worthy of my fire. And I'm being very honest about that. And I had to learn that. My fire is sacred to me. My fire is sacred to me. Everything does not call for that.
That's a good point. Yep.
You know, everything is not like, I'm just like, yo, I am not wasting my element of fire on you. It's
Right.
precious, it's sacred, and it's meant to do some real serious damage,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's meant to actually be used for specific purposes.
Mm-hmm.
This does not warrant my fire. It doesn't. And so for me, I have learned over the years how to control that part of myself. It doesn't mean it's gone. It just means that it's very much under management. Okay? Because I just, as you navigate and you start to really tap into that spiritual part of yourself, a lot of things don't really, it's not worth it, my aunt. Like really.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, that's not even
People
worth
ever
it.
try to pull that out of you? Like,
How?
do you find that people try to pull that fire out of you?
Uh, no, you know what I think? It's so funny. Okay, so let me just wait this. I'm glad you asked that question because that does challenge me. So what I've learned, and I'm sure if Tiffany's still here or anyone in the chat that knows me, what I learned about myself is no, I'm going to tell you why. People feel the warmth of my fire,
Mm.
so they don't play around me.
Okay.
So in other words, when I show up, my boundaries are very clear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get tested a lot. I just don't. And I'm being very honest. So it's
Right.
a matter of they feel the warmth of my fire so they know it's there. So
Mm.
I don't get tested in that capacity. Yeah, I really don't. I
Mhm.
don't. Most of the time people love me and want to be around me and want to talk to me and stuff like that. But my boundaries are very, very clear. Very
Mm.
clear. So I think a lot of people are aware, like, she's nice and she's graceful or gracious towards people, but I know she probably is not to be messed with.
Yeah.
So I would say you feel my fire versus seeing it. That's how I
Mm.
would say that. Yeah. Taylor say I never use my picture on social media for several reasons, and one being I wanted to connect to people via with my spirit instead of how I look. Yep, yep,
Mm.
that's a good point. They are us for sure. Yeah, she's talking about us saying get entities versus them being a part of ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, Tiffany was saying I'm here. Serious damage fire is a great responsibility. Only wine can calm it. Turn water into wine. Like it's a great responsibility, and I don't really mess around with that. You know, like I said, there isn't many things that warrant it. Honestly, I would say yes, same here. And she said fire is very comforting, but don't get too close. I agree. I agree. But I'm going to move on to the last slide. I think I have one more, and then I'm going to start to wrap this up. Um, yeah, this is the last one. So it says, this is Nathaniel Hawthorne. He says, no one man can, for any considerable time, wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which is the true one. And I agree with that. That's why I kind of brought up that quote because I want to end in that as
Mm.
far as authenticity being our superpower. Because a part of being inauthentic all the time is that we begin to lose ourselves.
Yeah.
We begin to lose ourselves, you know. And then so what happens? We seem happy, but we're not really happy within,
Mm-hmm.
right? And being inauthentic is you are messing with your inner peace.
Mm.
Forget the peacefulness you try to portray. You are
Right.
literally disrupting your inner peace because
Mm.
no one that constantly have to wear a mask is at peace within
Right.
themselves. There is turmoil there, meaning that they get into a situation, they put on that mask, and when they leave out of there, they feel disgusted by what they just participated in, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
job or the goal for all of us is to reconcile, and that's my favorite thing to say, reconcile all parts of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that there's a part of myself is saying, no, you over there, other part of Hanifa, you need to be me.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's reconciliation of all parts of ourselves. In my mind, is every part of myself coming together and say, we are here for the betterment of Hanifa and for the greater good of who she is. We don't have to be alike to accomplish that goal
Right.
because there are going to be parts of Hanifa's life that's going to require you, Sekhmet. There are parts that's going to require you, Ma'at.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There are parts of her life that's going to require for you to get loud.
Right.
There are parts of her life that's going to require you to kind of be a little bit more quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all of these aspects of Hanifa are different,
Mm-hmm.
but we can all get along.
Right.
Do you see how that is? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us are raised up to, if it's different, then it's the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
We see difference as deficits.
Right.
Because you're different, you are deficient.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not true. We have to change that and how we think about each other. So then what happens in my ad, you will say, I'm this type of person. So therefore, I cannot show up in the same space as that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But is it about the person or the space?
Mm.
Because the space might need both of you guys. Do you see what I'm saying? The space might need what they bring and what my ad brings. So when you enter a space with someone who is the complete opposite of you, if
Mm-hmm.
they're not disrespecting you,
Mm-hmm.
let's be clear on that. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to the difference and deficit, right?
Right.
Situation. If they could enter the space and allow my ad to be soft spoken and a little more quiet than they are, and
Mm-hmm.
respect that, and my ad can enter the space and let them be as boisterous as they are and respect that, then
Mm-hmm.
there's some work that can happen,
Right.
right? Because balance is peace.
Mm-hmm.
Balance is peace. It's not chaos. But what happens to us is you're too different. I can't rock with you. But my thing is, if that difference is not disrespectful, then you can work with it. That's how I carry myself. If it's not disrespectful to who you are, or it's not demanding that you become them,
Right.
then something can work out. And it's the same way on the other side. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to say something, Matt, to that?
Yeah, I was because I'm trying to remember what I was thinking when you were saying that.
Sorry.
But no, you um because I was thinking about the actual space.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about those spaces though, and I guess this is more of a question,
Sure.
that space being toxic, because in certain spaces, because I think that we have to understand, it's, kind of reminds me of when they say like the church ain't, it's not the building, it's
The
the people.
people.
Right. So we are creating those toxic environments, or those toxic spaces. Something becomes toxic because of us. So at what point,
Mm-hmm.
if those spaces are toxic because of the different people that are in, that may be toxic in those spaces, at what point, so if I say, I can't be in this space
Mm-hmm.
because it's too much toxicity in there,
Mm-hmm.
so where do we say, you know what, I'm going to, I'm not going to be able to be authentic in this space, but having that understanding of how to balance that,
Mm-hmm.
because just like, you said, you can be a runner. Like, I think a lot of people do run because sometimes we don't even identify that we're being toxic at times. We're just identifying other people being toxic.
That's a good point, Matt. That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good. I think I want to speak to what you just said because I know we're probably going to build on this
Hmm.
one.
Hmm.
So, um, think about it like this: it's an empty room. The room
Hmm.
is just a room.
Right.
The room is just a room. When you move into your house, it's like you go house hunting. You pick a house. When you go in, it's empty. It's just a house. It's not a home. It's not my hat's house. It's just a house. It's just an empty space, right? So
Hmm.
you made a point is to say the people, the people is who is corrupting or making the space toxic.
Right.
Okay. I think what we have to understand too is that not because there's a crowd around toxicity means that everyone in the crowd is toxic.
Right.
Okay. And what do I mean by that? Yes, we all have a level of toxicity to us.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we will completely avoid those spaces. Right. So
Right.
it's like you say, here you are running or pointing the finger, but you have a level of it in you. Okay, all of us do to a certain extent. And then when we discharge that out of us, guess what happened? We lose our appetite for those type of spaces. We do. We don't even mess with them. There's some spaces I don't even go into.
Right.
Right. So it's a matter of, I'm going to go back to what you said. You said when it becomes intolerable,
Mm-hmm.
it's intolerable, you should leave.
Right.
It's intolerable, you should leave. But here's what I've learned to do, and I can speak for this space that we're in here.
Mm-hmm.
I am good with dipping in. So in other words, my aunt, when you invite me to your house, your toxic ass house, okay, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up with my positivity, because I'm like this in my real life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna show up with my positivity. I'm gonna bring my authenticity. I'm gonna bring my good energy, okay, up in this space, right? And when I'm in that space, I'm gonna still be myself. However, if I find it difficult to maintain that, and I find myself being won over by the toxicity, but I don't want that to happen, I have a responsibility to myself to leave.
Mm-hmm.
I do. So I agree with you. You use the word, if it's intolerable.
Right.
You answered it. It's intolerable. It's intolerable to you, so you move around. Do you get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I'm okay with dipping in. So because here's what I know. Like let's use these platforms, for example. This is a space. So many people come in and out of the chats.
Mm-hmm.
So many people. So I
Right.
could enter a space. The space isn't toxic. The platform itself isn't toxic. It's
Right.
what we do with it. We go back to the hammer scenario, my art. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the hammer. It's the person using the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I look at it as I come into a space. There are many different people tuning in for a number of reasons. Let's be honest. Sometimes people just tune in to support you.
Right.
So if I enter into that space, if the conversation is overbearingly toxic, I'm
Mm-hmm.
rolling out.
Right.
But the space itself, having a regular conversation, I am going to leave something there. That's it. That's it. That's how I see it. And I'm still going to leave with my integrity and my dignity intact. That's how I approach these spaces, to be honest. I'm still going to leave with my dignity and integrity intact. I think you and I had a conversation earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
and our friendship is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We had much earlier on, and it wasn't you that asked me. Another person had asked me, how am I able to have just about any conversation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity, because I understand that everything has many angles.
Yeah.
Everything has many angles. Everything you could think of have different ways to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to me to decide the one that's most comfortable for me. You don't get to decide that for me.
Right.
We are going to have the conversation, and I'm going to contribute to it in the way that I want to contribute, even though staying on topic, but still contribute in that way. Or I am going to get caught up in the direction that you want me to come from.
Mm-hmm.
That's creativity.
Right.
And we all have it in us. But sometimes we're so busy being offended by the fact that they even want to have the conversation. And we've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
We're so offended by the fact that they want to have the conversation that we're not putting the energy into the creativity of having the conversation while still maintaining your integrity and dignity. And there's a way to do it. But go ahead, my aunt.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have problems doing that in these spaces because we don't know how to do it in our own home.
Thank
So
you.
we don't know how to have that conversation with our child who is coming to us and saying, hey, I think you did something wrong. But we're like, oh, you gonna tell me I did something wrong and I'm your parent. You know, so I think we have that problem, like even just disagreeing, like, you know, we can have we can have a disagreement and still you know, have a conversation later, still be friends, still have a good communication with one another. A lot of us are having problems just you disagreeing with me, so we're not cool anymore.
How
You know,
dare you?
right? Right. So like we're having these conversations and we're not even being able to have them in a mature way because we haven't learned that skill as at home. Like that's a skill. Like I tell my kids all the time, you gotta learn it here. Learn it at the house first. Because if you learn it out there, it's gonna be even more troublesome. Like we tell our
Yeah,
kids that all the time because it's easier to learn those lessons in the house than it is to learn it outside in the world. And we kind of see that like on social media, you kind of see who has a problem with kind of navigating certain conversations or even being told that you're wrong or even being told that maybe you shouldn't have done that, like
yeah,
and early on you told me like, hey, don't, you shouldn't have done, so you know and I could have been
yeah,
like, how you gonna say and tell me, like, but I took that in love because
yeah.
one,
Mhm.
I respected what
Yeah,
you have to say,
yeah.
like that's one thing, but also because I also knew to look within as well. So, looking within is so important,
Mhm.
especially as we start trying to be as authentic as we can be. We
Yeah,
know that we have so many layers to unravel, one being this white filter that we have.
yeah.
So we know that on top of that, we have filters from our parents, from our childhood, from going to school, from going to just different things. Whether
To existing in a system that doesn't favor us,
right,
right?
right,
To existing in a society that doesn't favor us, that
mm,
tells us that we're not good enough,
right,
right? We always, especially as Black people, we're constantly getting those messages. So what does that look like, right? How many
yes,
masks are we wearing per day,
mm-hmm,
right? Per week, per month? What does that look like? Like piles and piles of masks. Some of us, we just say, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to sleep with the mask on. It just makes it easier to get up in the morning and go. We're not
mm,
even unmasking at night. We're not even facing the truth of ourselves, right? So
mm-hmm,
yeah, existing in a society where white hegemony, right,
mm-hmm,
and domination is present,
right,
and it's a constant, especially as Black people, constantly checking our value,
mm-hmm,
right, and trying to do what they say makes us valuable,
right,
right, or look the way they say we should look to
mm-hmm,
make ourselves worthy and valuable, right? To meet a standard that's not even us.
mm-hmm,
We gonna still make the attempt though. I ain't gonna never have a narrow nose, but I'm gonna still try because what I'm about to do is contour this joint.
mm-hmm. Contour.
I'm
Yep.
gonna contour it, okay? So it's we get these messages all the time. So that's why I said in the beginning, and I'm gonna let you close. I'll have closing remarks because I'm gonna wrap up. But like
Mhm.
I said in the beginning, authenticity is an act of courage.
Yeah,
It's
it
an
is.
act of courage. It is. I think it's what's his name, if I could look up that quote real quick, but it's a guy that says, in a world that constantly tells you that you're not good enough. Let me see. That's constantly make it. I can't think of it now. I think it's Warren something. Um, Give me 1 minute. Tells you. Okay, let me see if it'll come up. Uh yeah, it's not coming up. But there's a quote that I had when I used to work at my office that I had on my wall, and
Mhm.
it's along those lines that still being yourself in a world that's constantly telling you to be someone else. It's a brave act. It's an act of courage. So I don't want to sit here and act like it's this easy thing to do,
Mhm.
right? Because some of us have been people pleasing since we 2 years old. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a long time, and now we are in our 50s and 40s. I know women in their 50s and 60s unmasking,
Mhm.
unmasking, And a part of unmasking we didn't get into, and maybe we'll continue the conversation another time. We didn't get into the healing aspect of unmasking,
Yeah.
because when you unmask, sometimes you're gonna peel back something and you're gonna have to face some hurt. Because
Mhm.
let's be honest, a lot of times some of these masks are hiding our pain
Yeah.
and our hurt and our wounds, right? Masks are not just, because we are afraid of being seen,
Mm.
or afraid of not being accepted. We're afraid of being judged, right? We're afraid of our pain being exposed,
Right.
because we feel that our pain being and it's not feel, our pain being exposed makes us vulnerable.
Yes.
It does. It just
Mm.
does, because somebody could use it and try to weaponize it against us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we use our mask as a form of protecting that part of ourselves. And I don't want to even get that deep into that, but that's a part we didn't touch on. So my
Right.
eye, in closing, what do you want to say? What do you have in what did you receive in this conversation? And what would you like to say in your closing remarks?
Uh so in this conversation, I think that it kind of shows us the process that we're all on, like the journey that we're all on. And so I think that with being learning how to be more authentic,
Mhm.
because I think that just like life is a journey and we're always trying to continue to get to our higher ourselves, our higher consciousness, and that is you're always becoming, like you're never that, you're always becoming the greatest version of yourself. So always, that means always becoming that greater version means always learning how to be more and more authentic, and like with taking those layers off one by one, trusting that journey, trusting
I
yourself,
like that. Hmm.
like trusting you to be authentic. And maybe that just means sitting alone with yourself and listening to your inner thoughts, whatever comes up. Because sometimes our inner thoughts, you be like, where'd that come from? Like, you just like, that me,
Hmm.
but like really trusting yourself and understanding that it takes time, because it took time to put those masks on. It's going to take time to take those masks off. So really just taking time with that journey. I think we're all doing that,
Yes.
and I
Mhm.
think that this was an amazing conversation, a conversation very much needed. And
Mhm.
I thank you for having this conversation. And anyone who does not know me, you can come over onto my aunt speaks, and we have conversations over there as well. And Hanifa will be on over there soon. So
Yes, I will. And I'm super excited about that conversation as well. I'm actually going to. You see, my art. I'm trying to get better at this, by the way, because usually my moderators be on it. Okay, but
uh-huh.
I'm trying to be better at this. Making sure that I put you guys links in the chat. If you guys want to follow my art, I'm going to post her link in the chat, because I really need to do better with that. I'm working on it. Um, but yes, so that's my ads channel I'm posting. If you guys want to follow my ad has some really dope panels and some really interesting conversations. She also have pre-recorded things, right? Teachings.
Hmm.
Really good stuff. Really good stuff. And my ad is really more mellow paced than I am. Really. And the
Don't tell me, Hanifa.
I love it. I love it because I cannot do it. I can't, and I love it. I was just, all the people around me are so different, right? And I'd be like, oh my God, I love this. This is the person I need to go to for this or whatever. So trust me, I'm teasing, but I appreciate that, because I know I can't show up like that. I just can't, even if I try, girl, it's gonna
Yeah,
last about
it's no
5 minutes.
though.
It's gonna last about five minutes tops. And then in the 6 minutes, I'm gonna be like, and right?
No,
Yeah.
we would be asking you, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Hanifa?
No,
Why you
but
acting like
you know what, my aunt? I'm so glad you said that. When I've tried to be that way, it always comes off as depressed and sad. People be like, I'm serious. No.
You sick?
Yeah. People be like, you all right? What's wrong? I'm just testing out this meekness thing. You know what I'm saying? Allow me to be great. No. It's like, what? You good? What's the matter? So no, it don't work for me, man. It don't. I am being so damn honest about this. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, in closing, I appreciate you guys being here, having the conversation. My aunt, thank you for coming up. I love having conversations with you. What I'm learning is that a lot of the deepest conversations I have is over the phone. And I'm learning how to bring these conversations to the platform, because this is how, like, I don't know how other women talk, but that's how I talk with my friends, right? We can talk about some crap. You know, when I call you Leah, what that means, you know what that means. So I can call about some crap and be, but once I'm done with the crap, then I delve into some other stuff, right? And that's all my friendships. I'm like that. I could call my girl and be like, girl, you would not believe this. And then once we got past that, we start talking about ourselves.
Yeah. Girl. Like, we just like, I that's why I love talking to you, because we be talking about one thing and then we all into the spirit world.
I tell people all the time, ma'am, sir, I walk between worlds. Thank you very much. Okay? Because right now I could tap into this and I could have a stream of consciousness going on and be like, boom, boom, boom. And then afterwards I could come out and be like, these idiots piss me off today. Okay? I'm being real, like that's just me, right? And I'm okay with that, because I know that that's both of those things are who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Both of those things. I could get frustrated. I could call you. I could call Tiff. Be like, yo, that was so stupid. Like, they make me sick. Right? And then I could be like, girl, so I had this dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of go into that. So, you know, if somebody come to me, I could tell them, like my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk to my friend and she could come to me like something about somebody else. And I could be like, man, bump them people. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody messing with them like that anyway. And then I could go from that and go into, but what did you learn from that? Very much so. Very much so. Because at the end of the day, I believe in self-accountability and responsibility. And I believe a lot of what we get involved in, we have partook in at some point.
Right.
A lot of what we find ourselves in, we have contributed. A lot of things that we encounter, we could have avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about them people and be like, yo, you know, them people ain't Asian. Don't pay them no mind. They don't know you. They don't want this smoke. And then at the end of it is like, but what did you learn? Let's go a little deeper. So that's me. But I wanted to say, as far as authenticity and unmasking, like, I agree with you, my aunt. Be gentle with yourself. Okay? A lot of us have really learned how to cower from things versus facing them head on. You know, and I know that being authentic is really a courageous thing. And a lot of us don't just become courageous overnight. So you got to keep working at it. Like I talked about, like slowly peeling it off, you know, piece by piece, piece by piece. Be gentle with yourself. Don't be gentle with others too, but don't be so judgmental of yourself in the process. And just, you know, do it one day at a time, one moment at a time. Like, that's all you can do, you know. Just remember, the goal is to show up authentically, because that is really your superpower. That is the thing that gets you what you really want at your core. That's really, you know, I said a mouthful today, so I'm going to go ahead and end. My aunt, it's all love. Thank you for joining me. Next week, guys, tune in, because I'm going to have, I think, a clinician on, and we're going to be talking about the men. You know, we're going to be talking about the men, Black men, and mental health, why no one seems to care about them in that capacity. And then following that, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room in our communities, which is sexual abuse. We're going to talk about that in the following one. So y'all stay tuned, keep tuning in, and I appreciate you guys. And until next time, my aunt and chat, peace.